Hello, welcome to Data Analytics with Python for Beginners. Today is the fifth session where we will be working on exploratory data analysis part 1. We'll be looking at data preparation and cleaning. In general, there are 4 types of data issues: the duplicates, missing values, inconsistencies, as well as outliers. If you want to know more about each data issue, right, please refer to the PDF file on data quality and cleaning. Right, in there, you will be able to understand each issue better and understand how it comes about and what are the ways to address them. For this course, we are going to use Python to find these data issues as well as to rectify them. All right, let's split the screen into 2 as usual. All right, let's create a new Python file. Go to file, new Python 3. All right, let's add rows below. All right, yeah. So the first thing for us to do is to import the libraries pandas and numpy. After that, we create a data frame while we read the CSV file. In this case, we are using the raw data file as our working data, right? So copy and paste and hit Shift Enter to run. All right, the next thing we want to do is to find out if there is any duplicates, right? So what we do is we use the data frame, and then there's a method called duplicated, right? And then after that, we use value counts. That means how many are there, right? So essentially, we print this to check how many duplicated values are there. So let's copy and paste here. All right, essentially, there are 4 duplicated values. So what we do is we're going to create a new data frame called df1, whereby the duplicates are dropped from the previous data frame df. All right. All right, and then you hit Shift Enter. All right. So there are many ways to remove duplicates. The one that we have just used is to remove the rows that have they are identical for all the columns. But sometimes you only want to remove rows with identical values in certain columns, like resale price. So you can run this line of code. All right, but we are not in this case. So after we have removed the duplicates, let's see how many duplicates are left. Right, so now we do not have any duplicates. Usually we we address duplicates first because it's very straightforward. If it's a duplicate, you really remove it. All right, very simple. Now, what happens if there are missing values? So first of all, let's check how many missing values are in each column. Right, so we use the data frame and then use the method is now, and then sum up how many missing values in each column. So we copy and paste here, Shift Enter. So these are our columns, and each of these columns, there are missing values, right? As little as 1 of them to as high as 5 of them. All right, so each column has a missing value. Before we decide on how to address this missing value, we need to understand what are the data types for these columns. All right, so let's use df1 d types and Shift Enter. So it shows the data type of each column. So most of them are object. Object is basically a string, right? String, and then they are what we deem categorical data. All right, that means you cannot add them up together. You can count them, but you cannot add them, right? Usually in this case, we normally replace them with mode, right? With mode, right? And then after that, we have floats. Floats is a numeric number, right? And usually we replace them with a mean or medium. All right. So by knowing what are the data types for each column, then we can know which method to replace the missing value. All right. So for example, we can also check whether these variables are in the data type that we really want. So one of the variable, you can see that resale price is a string. Actually, that's not what we want. We want resale price to be a number, right? So what we can do is we can convert the resale price column, all right, convert it into numeric, right? And then we force it to convert into numeric, right? So let's copy this. Right, and then hit Shift Enter. Right, so our resale price is being converted into a float now. Right, so again, let's look at the data types for all the variables. Right, most of them are object, some of them are floats. All right, so let's address the missing values for categorical variables first. Right, so you have quite a number of categorical variables. Right, we just want to look at two of them. Right, the first one is month. Right, we look at the first variable month is a categorical variable, and if we scroll up, you can see that there is one missing value. So with a categorical variable, we replace it with mode. All right, so we update our month column, right, by filling up the NA, that means missing value, with the mode of the month column. All right, with the mode in the month column. And here 0 just represents the column. All right. So just let's copy it, copy and paste it here. All right. Then after that, we hit Shift Enter. So we have replaced the missing value in month with its mode. Similarly for type, right? Flat type, right? Is also an object. So similarly, we can replace it with its mode. Right. Then Shift Enter. Right. Now the next part where you want to address missing values for numerical variables. So numerical variables could be the floor area square meter, right? It could be the resale price. So for numerical variables, we replace it with a medium, right? So we update the floor area square meter by filling up the missing value with its medium. Right, so we'll just copy and paste. Right, let's hit this back. Right, so that's what we did. Replace it with medium. Similarly for resale price. Right, we replace it with medium. Okay, and now let's see how many missing values are we left with. Right, can see, right, there are some zeros that we have addressed them, but there are still other missing values. All right, you can address it during the tutorial. All right, so missing values are usually the second data issues that we will address. The third data issue that we normally address are inconsistencies. That means in the same column, there are all kinds of data, right? That are not inconsistent with what we expect. All right. Okay. For example, just look at data type. All right. All right. We just copy and paste. We want to see what are the value counts. That means what are the variables and what are the values for flat type and how many counts are there. Right. So we just hit Shift Enter. So we found that for flat type, there are 223 records of 3 room. And there's 1 record of 3. So obviously this 3 is inconsistent, right, with 3 room. All right, so we need to address this 3. What we can do is we can replace this 3 and convert it into 3 room. Right, so this is what we do. Right, we update the flat type data frame, column, using the NumPy, whereby if the flat type is equals to 3, see that 3 is actually a text, so we need a quotation mark. All right, if the flat type is equals to 3, right, replace it with 3 room, also text. And see, we have a quotation there. Right, then after that, you end up with your flat type. Okay, so this is the replacement. All right, right, and after that, let's check again. Right, what is the value counts for flat type? So, right, and now you can see that all the flat type is 3 room. Okay, so you can, if you want, you can delete the one that is inconsistent. But as far as we try not to delete rows. All right, we try to replace them or estimate. Right. The next one is something called lease commence date. Right, that means for this apartment, when does it commence? Right, so let's count what are the various values for this column. You can see that the lease can commence since 1976, 77, 78, and 81. However, there are values that are 0, and there are also values that are 1900. So we know that by looking at this, 0 and 1900 is not good, right? It's inconsistent. They are basically not correct. So we are going to replace them. So what we do is for the lease commence date, we use NumPy to say that if the value is less than 1901, we replace it with the medium. All right, we replace it with the medium, right? And then that's how the commence date will be. All right, let's copy and paste it here. Right, so we have replaced that with medium. And let's see what's the end result. All right, what's the count? So now you see that there's no longer zeros or 1900 because we have replaced them with medium. Okay. Next part is the outliers. All right. Outliers, there are a few ways to identify them. We can do visual. Usually we do visual, or we can use the Z-score. All right. So for visual, right, let's use the matplotlib to plot. Right. So first of all, import matplotlib package using the pyplot and with the alias plt. After that, we plot using the data frame 1. We do a scatter plot where the x-axis is the year and the y-axis is the resale price. All right, let's copy and paste. So you can see that basically there are outliers here, outliers here, outliers here, and then outliers here. All right, because we know that the price that we got for our data is close to 2020. So anything that's earlier or later should not be correct. And also our price should be ranged within this 300 to 500, 400 over 1,000, right? Cannot be 1 point something million. So we know from the scatter plot, it's very clear that we have outliers. All right. So the second way to see outliers is to do a box plot. Again, we use our data frame 1 using the plot, using the box plot, and we plot resale price. Let's copy and paste it here. And then we can see that, oh, there's an outlier here, resale price here, right? 1.2 million and more. And then for year, right, same thing, we just copy the code here and then run it here. Then we can see that there are outliers here, right? More than 2020, less 2000 or 1900. So these are the outliers. All right. The third way is basically to compute a z-score. Z-score is something like our standardization, right? Whereby each variable is converted into the number of standard deviation from its mean. All right. So by right, you should not have too many standard deviation away from the mean. If you have that data at those so far away from the mean, essentially it means that it's an outlier. All right. So let's compute z-score. Z-score is basically using the data minus mean divided by the standard deviation. All right, just copy and paste here. All right, so we have a z-score. Now then we want to create a new variable, right? New data frame whereby the z-score is more than 3. That means this data point has 3 standard deviation more than the mean, right? So let's run this. And then we output the data frame. Oh, so we found that there is a data point, right, that exceed 3 standard deviation from the mean, right, for the resale price, and indeed it is, right. The resale price is really high, right. So basically, these are the 3 methods where we can identify outliers, all right. So how do we address outliers, right? We can replace the values where it's more than 600,000. We replace it with medium. All right, so this is to replace it with medium, right? Replace the resale price outlier with medium. Okay, or we can replace it using interquartile range, right? If you have if your quartile is more than 95 percentile, you replace it with medium, right? You can also do that. Or you can replace it with medium using the z-score, right? So if we identify that it's an outlier using the z-score, then we replace it with medium. All right, so these are the 3 ways where you can identify the outliers and then replace them with something. Most of the time it will be medium, right? So those are the 4 main data issues and ways to address them. All right, the next part we want to talk about is when we prepare data, right? We want to do a standardization, something like our z-score, or a normalization, where we convert the data into a range of 0 to 1. The purpose is because there are many variables out there, so it's quite difficult to compare different variables. For example, you have the resale price, right? 300 to 500,000. And then you have the years 2001 to 2017 to 2022, right? So these variables are not comparable, right? In order to compare them, we should either standardize or we normalize. Normalize, the other name for normalize is just a min max, right? So you use resale price, you minus the mean, then you divide by its max minus the mean. All right, so you convert the variables into a 0 to 1 range. All right, so let's copy and paste here. All right. All right. So for today, that's what we learned. Right, we learned the 4 different data issues. How do we locate them in Python, and how do we address them using the various methods? Right. So this is very important. in our data quality check, our data preparation, before we can do analysis for it. We also talk about standardization and normalization, is so that convert the variables into a range such that they are comparable. Right. So for tutorial, you use the same raw data file, all right, and to identify all the data issues and clean them. All right. So with that, I thank you for your attention, and I will see you in the next session.